This is The Download from Sounds Profitable, your daily source for the essential news of the business of podcasting, brought to you by Spreaker from iHeart. I'm Gavin Gaddis. Before we get started, we want to do a last call for webinar registration. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sounds Profitable will debut our latest research study, The Podcast Landscape 2024, in a live presentation hosted by Tom Webster. Registration is free, open now, and there is a link in the show notes. But for now, here's what you need to know for today, Tuesday, August 27th. First up, new NIT podcast consumer study. Podcast audiences have an appetite for new podcasts and want relevant topics and humor in podcast promos. Here's a little bite-sized piece of data. Back in September, a survey of 156 monthly podcast consumers was conducted by insights platform NIT. Notable findings from the study include 45% of respondents agreeing that thought-provoking messages are the most important factor for a podcast ad. Motivational messages and humorous messages tie for second place at 38%. Next up, NFL's Kelce brothers signed $100 million podcast deal with Amazon. Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce have signed a 3-year deal with Wondery for their podcast New Heights. The show, which received a viral boost after one of them started dating Taylor Swift, will be available ad-free on Wondery Plus, as well as provide merch rights to Amazon. An anonymous source close to the matter tells Bloomberg the deal was worth $100 million USD, million with an M. While podcasting has aged out of its so-called crazy money phase, where similar price tags were spent on shows that had potential to be hits, deals like this one on existing proven hits, such as SmartLess's recent exclusivity deal and Alex Cooper moving to SiriusXM, show there's plenty of room left for big deals in podcasting. Next up, Magellan AI's top spenders and movers and shakers for July. The Olympics cast a long shadow over podcast advertising last month. Of the top 10 highest spenders that Magellan AI tracks, 8 of those top 10 favored sports over any other genre. Comedy takes up the remaining 2 slots. Wells Fargo takes biggest mover and shaker this month, with a 579% increase in podcast ad spend from June into July, reaching $1,032,600 spent. Magellan AI will continue their 10-minute webinar series with a live presentation this Thursday, August 29th, that breaks down their top 15 movers and shakers and spenders. And finally, what makes good chemistry for chat podcasts? It's fundamental. An article that focuses on examples of good host chemistry, from friendly banter to charismatic hosts that put anxious interview subjects at ease. What makes podcaster chemistry inherently valuable is it's not particularly manufacturable. Condé Nast executive producer of audio Steven Valentino says one can create the conditions for good chemistry, but it can't be forced. Regardless, it's a sign podcasting has grown to demand attention when the New York Times is covering the ephemeral je ne sais quoi, or as the French say, I don't know, attributes of good podcast hosting. As for the rest of the news, Julep Media is once again independent with podcast hosting handled by its adjacent company, Audiorella. Spreaker is beta testing a new podcast creation tool inside of the Spreaker app. True crime podcast You Probably Think the Story's About You has signed with True Native Media. Amplify Media shares how to create podcast promo material that really works. And a dispatch from live podcast recordings of Spotify's The Ringer residency. Be sure to check out the links to every article mentioned right in your podcast listening app or at soundsprofitable.com, where you can also subscribe to the newsletter version. The Download is written and produced by Newton Shadowcotty, myself, Brian Barletta. This episode is hosted on Spreaker. For Sounds Profitable, I'm Gavin Gaddis. Download us again tomorrow.